What is up, everybody? Sorry. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast. My name is DJ Ligori, and we are on episode number 132 today, and we are going to talk about saying no more. This is something that I think we all might struggle with because we like to say yes to a lot of things because then we feel of use, we feel of more value, and sometimes we end up draining all of our energy and all of the time that we actually have for ourselves. And then we kind of start to resent all the things that we actually said yes to. And this is actually one of my goals for 2024. My first goal was to take more shots. And I don't mean the alcoholic ones. I mean like taking more shots in life, doing new things that I typically wouldn't do. And the second thing was to actually say no more. Because I believe that if I say no more, I think, this is at least what I think will happen, is I'll start to take the things that I say yes to more serious. And that's what I'm going to test going into 2024. And so what I want to do is I want to start this podcast with a daily diamond message. And I'm actually going to start this. I'm going to do something right now that I've never done before. I'm going to read a daily diamond that I actually haven't sent out yet. I wrote this daily diamond today, and this actually kind of spurred this idea of what I wanted this podcast to be. So this daily diamond is called Yes or No. Do you say yes a lot? Can you pick me up from the airport? Yep. Can you help me move for 5 hours on Saturday? Yep. Can you let me live in your house rent-free for a couple months and eat your food and use your things until I'm back on my feet? Of course. Sometimes it's hard to say no because when we say yes, we increase our value. We become of more use to others, and that feels good. What would happen if we said no more? Would our value decrease? Would we become of less use to others? Or would we just set new expectations? Don't get me wrong, we can still help others, and I encourage us to do so. Yet, what if we were already valuable? We didn't need to prove our value to feel better about ourselves. We were just good as is. What a comforting way to live. And that daily diamond, as I mentioned, has not even come out yet. Wrote it today, and it's titled Yes or No. And if you would like to start receiving our daily diamond weekly mental fitness tips and stories, you can go to librariesandweightrooms.com. These are quick 30-second ideas to help you manage hard things throughout your day better. All right, so yes or no. Why is it so hard to say no? Well, this year, I actually had two instances where I had people who I cared about ask me to help them with some creative work. For those of you who don't know, I love art and I love designing things. It's one of my very big passions. And they asked me to help with 3 projects. And initially, like the first thought in my head was, yes, I can do it, right? Of course, I would love to help these people, right? I care about them. I love them. And I decided to say no on both occasions. And the reason that I said no on both occasions is because one, it's one of my goals. I didn't want to say yes because then it became a responsibility. I heard once, I believe it was Carl Bryan, who said no is a decision and yes is a responsibility. And I knew that if I was going to say yes, then I was going to be on the hook to all this creative work. Now, I actually like doing the creative work, yet I know the time that it would take me to do all of those things, and that is then time being taken away from me growing my business, right? And me doing things that I really want to focus on in 2024. And so I respectfully said no to both of these individuals. And I explained why I said no, simply just because of a time standpoint. And then what I decided to do was I decided to recommend a better solution. And I think this is something that we can test out if it's a challenging idea to want to, like, it's awkward to start saying no more. If you say no, try to just find an alternative solution for them. Or just say, I can't do this yet. Have you thought about this? Or yet what you could do is this. Or yet you could call this person, right? So you're not just saying no and then that's the end of your response. You're actually saying no and then building upon your response to still help them get to where they want to go. And I think the reason that we struggle with this is because when we say yes to people, we become of more value to them. Kind of like that daily diamond message that I just wrote, or I just read off. When we say yes to people, our value increases because then we become of value to them, right? Hey, helping them move or picking them up from the airport, right? Whatever it is. And that makes us feel good, right? One of the things that I've heard a lot of like entrepreneurs say before is I want to feel of use to people. And if you think about it, whenever we are in the entrepreneur space, we are ultimately creating something, and that is then being of use to people, right? We're solving a problem, right? We're creating a product or a service that we think is going to alleviate some pain somewhere, and that is being of use to others. Yet, when does it become detrimental to ourselves, right? And that's where we can kind of shift that idea. And so if we start to say no more, there's the possibility that we feel like, all right, I'm not being of use to others, right? And then we have to actually ask ourselves, am I valuable enough to me like right now? Like if I said no for the next 30 days of my life, would I still feel good with myself? Would I still feel good about who I am right now? Would I still have enough value even if I said no to all of those people? I think that we can believe that we can just be valuable enough right now. And we don't necessarily need to say yes to others to increase that value. Because if I start to say no, kind of like what I read in that message earlier, our expectations start to change, right? If I say, hey, no, I'm not going to be able to help you, or no, I'm not going to be able to pick you up from the airport, or no, I'm not going to be able to loan you this money or whatever. Over time, if you say no 2, 3, 4 more times, that becomes the new norm, right? Like they're not going to try to ask for your ride from the airport, or not going to try to ask for money for you or live at your apartment. And it just becomes a new expectation. And here's the thing, you're not being like a jerk to them. You're just stating, these are my non-negotiables. These are my expectations. This is how I'm choosing to live my life. If I can help you and I have the time and I have the energy and I'm good, then I'm willing to do that. Yet I don't want to sacrifice my life to constantly be supporting or being of value to you, because at the end of the day, I'm going to be drained, and then I'm going to be anxious, and I'm going to be stressed, and I'm going to be overwhelmed, and I don't want to feel like that. And I hope you wouldn't want to feel like that too, because then it flips it back on them, and then I'm not going to be asking for all of their help all the time. I still might say, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And I say it as more of like a question, and because we now have like that mutual understanding or expectation of each other, that it's okay for us to say no to each other, right? We're not always going to say yes. And I think that creates a completely new form of communication. And one of the things too that I think we all have experienced is, and I heard this in a group that I was running this week, a CrossFit group, and it was so powerful, is that there are people in our lives that sometimes make us feel guilty for saying no. Like really, like you have that aunt or that uncle or that cousin or that friend who you'll say no to them, and then they'll say, really? Like, you're really not going to help me? Or you're really not going to do this for me? And then you start to feel guilty. You start to feel guilty that you're actually saying no, or that you're actually taking time for yourself. And that's where we really have to flex our own agency and our own beliefs about what is important to us and what is our non-negotiables, right? What are the things that we're not willing to really compromise on? Now, like I've said before, right? We can have strong opinions loosely held, right? We can have ideas and we can be willing to shift them. Yet, I bet there are a couple things that we believe in that we really aren't willing to shift, right? That we really truly believe is important. Like, for example, I truly believe that exercise is really important. And if somebody was to say, I don't think exercise is important, I think you can eat chips and soda and cake and cookies all for as long as you want, I don't know how much I would believe that person. I'd have to see the way that person operated, behaved, looked, all of that before I ever even thought of going into that idea, right? So we can still have certain things that we're just not willing to compromise. And sometimes that means saying no to those people that you love and you care about. And I think the last thing that I wanted to hit on is there's a difference between helping somebody and enabling somebody, right? And if we're helping them, we're ultimately helping them get closer towards where they want to go. And I think if we're enabling them, we are the one doing it for them. And that's where like coaching is super valuable, where you can have somebody ask you a question to help you get closer towards your answers instead of somebody just giving you the answer, right? It feels better when you actually earn it for yourself instead of somebody just saying, hey, here's the answer, do this, right? And nonetheless, there's a time and place where I actually just need that answer, or when I'm actually trying to, go create that answer and find that answer. So I think we have to just understand, all right, am I actually helping this person or am I enabling this person? And that ultimately might help us say no more. So I hope some of these ideas were beneficial. These are the things that I'm personally am trying to think of when I'm trying to say no more, right? Am I helping? Am I enabling? How can I still give them an alternative solution, right? And sometimes I will be okay to help you, right? I will be okay to say yes. That's completely fine. Yet I'm watching out for myself too, right? And I think that's a very important thing. We have to make sure our buckets are good before we start pouring into others, okay? So thank you guys so much for tuning into episode number 132 today of the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast. If you got some value out of today's episode, always super grateful if you gave us a rating on Spotify. You can rate it with the stars, and on iTunes, you can actually leave a nice little review, or you can watch this right on YouTube and you can leave a comment with what you thought of this show. So everybody have a great couple of weeks. Go do hard things, and we'll talk to you guys soon. We'll see you.